Hey rail fans, and welcome to another one of my streams. And today, picking up where we ended in disaster on the last one, and having a little go of the DMU on the Tees Valley again, showing that a little bit more love before I inevitably go back to playing on the Transpennine at some point. So nice early morning run from Darlington to Saltburn. It says Bishop Auckland, but it's not. It's Darlington. Okay, so let's just do a quick setup. What side's the platform on actually? I didn't ken. Right hand side, okay. And let's just Nash down the back. Not white, want red. Red. Oh, come on, click spot, want you on. And set the blind. Middlesbrough, not in private. I think it comes after. Oh shit, not Huddersfield, is it? Harrogate, Hull, Hartlepool, Macclesfield. Ah, after Macclesfield, Saltburn. There we go. Run back down to our own end. Hey, Tommy, welcome. Good to see you, man. Going to have another crack at this DMU malarkey after yesterday's ignominious ending. Right, so I've got quite a lot to do now and not much time to do it in. So markers on, destination light on, Macclesfield it was after, wasn't it? Not the service, private, Scarborough, specials, Newcastle, York. Hartlepool, Macclesfield, Saltburn. What else I need to do? Oh, aye. Green lights. And panel lights. And I think that's nearly everything. Alright, cool. And about 45 seconds to stand waiting, so we'll just we'll do the camera thing now. So I've got less messing about to do it on the line. That one's alright where it is for now, but I like this one to be pointing back the way. Get back in the cab. That's 20 seconds, so we'll just kill the HUD now. Oh yeah, I want to release this brake a little way, don't I, before... There we go, and I always just give it a little squeeze to make sure that I do in fact still have the vacuum brake sound. Lock the doors a few seconds early, so that when you actually get the call to go, like that, we're ready to more or less instantly go. Oh no! Yeah, I've done that before, man. There's so many things you have to remember with this train. Like, just so many different controls. It's really easy to lose concentration. Totally sympathise with that. So it starts off a bit gloomy, this one, but it should brighten up as the morning goes on. Oh, speedy. We'll just wind that in a little bit. So just waiting for the 60 mile an hour to start. I've changed up a gear maybe a bit sooner than I should have, but it's not the end of the world. We'll just give it full beans a few yards early. Won't make any difference. I hope. So fairly quick stretch of line this. It won't take as long to do the 2.8 miles. It's not a very long route this. It still takes about an hour to do the full length passenger run. I actually quite like the gears. Once you get used to them, they're not too bad at all. Fiddly, but good. And it does it's a totally different experience to any other train in the game. There's nothing else like this. Even some of the annoying bastard ones on the Deutsche Bahn, when you've got all the bells and whistles switched on, they can be quite tricky, but none of them demand you just have such a constant hands-on approach as this one. I love it. Totally loving all this old 80s British Rail stuff, because this is the British Rail I grew up with. I remember all this shit. I've been on one of these things. These things were all over Scotland until, I think about 2000 they were withdrawn from the ScotRail network. So yeah, I mean, I fondly remember complaining about these rickety old pieces of shit at the time, but nah, I love them now in this game. Right, I need to pay attention on the last mile or so into a station, otherwise I end up way beyond it. So moderate braking to begin with, and then you can sort of gauge whether you need to increase that a bit or let them back out a bit. They are a bit laggy, and somebody, Super Sprinter I think it was, possibly pointed out in the comment on another video that they are very laggy to release. And they do release much faster on the big diesel electric locomotives proper. When you're using the vacuum brakes on the vans, on the Transpennine, the goods vans, they release almost instantly once you pass the lapse stage of the handle. What time was that meant to be? 46. So yeah, we're on time. That's fine. Yeah, patience is the key, Tommy, to figuring out how this thing goes. Once you've sort of got a feel for it, it's not that bad. What I tend to find to do most is once I'm up into second or third gear, my attention wanders around the gauges, and then I do the check for the, like, you know, you look up the track, you'll check the HUD thing in the top right, get your bearings, and then I'll check the gauges, and I always seem to just look straight past the rev counter for some reason, because it's not something I have to look at in other trains. I go from the brake gauges to the safety thing in the middle to the speedo, and then back to the track, and kind of tend to skip the rev counter sometimes. And then you realise eventually, shit, I've been going along for about a mile here with my engine in far too low a gear. So 7:54 at the next station. We'll try and remember to check the times as we go. What I did actually find it easier, or what I found made it easier to learn to drive with the gears, was actually learning to use this gauge rather than the one on the HUD that normally sits here. This one's actually easier to read once you understand it, and it's bigger and it's clearer. Now that was a 30 mile an hour around that station as well, so we'll just cap it off there for a moment. But yeah, definitely worth learning how to use the gears though. This train, much simpler though it is in many ways, is every bit as rewarding as the most complicated of the German ones when you get it right. In my opinion, anyway. Can't remember if this is one of the services that stops at the steelworks or not. I know that not all of them do. Do quite like having the old style AWS as well. Remember when railway bridges used to look like that, where they open the sides and you could stand on them and watch the trains go underneath? I miss those bridges. Not many of those left, certainly not up this way. Most of them were replaced with the big high-sided closed-in things when they electrified the East Coast main line. Oh, the brakes are completely different, Tommy. Yeah, vacuum brakes work a little bit differently on this thing. Again, it's practice. I find was the main thing that made a difference. And again, learning to read this gauge here rather than relying on the little needles with no markings whatsoever on the gauge on the HUD made it a lot easier, because this needle here, when it's up above 20 the brakes are off, down at 0 is maximum braking, and all you do is you just turn the handle to let the air in and then stop the handle when you've reached the braking you want. It's like filling a bucket of water with a tap. You turn the tap on, fill the bucket to the point you want, and then turn the tap off. And the more you put in the bucket, the heavier it is, and the faster your train stops. And when somebody told me that wee story, that made it make a lot more sense to me. I mean, I am a bit of a divvy sometimes, so I maybe did need a bit more help, but I found that a very useful little thing to keep in mind. But the biggest thing with the vacuum brakes is just practicing with them. And essentially, the further you open the handle, the faster the air is going in or out. So I'm braking sort of... If you release or apply the handle fully, you get pretty powerful braking. So we'll pop them on to about 15. It's not doing much. We'll whap them open to about 6 or 7, and they will start to bite. We'll maybe open them a little more, or apply them a bit more. Take your pick. I think we'll just apply them fully. And once you get used to how they work, and you realise how quickly you can put them on and pop them off, that really makes a difference. Because for the longest time, I used to start braking from miles away and take a big long run at it. But now, once you realise you can stop from 60 miles an hour in about 700 yards without any problems, it becomes a lot easier. Yeah, hi Andy, welcome. Yeah, it was probably the hardest part of learning this local for me was the braking. What I also do as well is, if you see how I just release the brakes a bit, I can apply them again, or stick the handle in the lap position, and the needle stays where it is, but come time to release the brakes when it's time to move the train, I don't have to wait for them to release all the way from 0, if you see what I mean. Forgot to close my throttle when I came into the station, what a doofus. Right, so I'm just going to lock the doors now that the loading is finished, so that as soon as we're given the all clear, off we pop. Because of course in reality the train guard would start closing the doors as soon as the passengers were off, so you would pretty much be ready to go with the doors closed at that time anyway. Not something that the game really reflects, is the what's actually going on around the train at the station in these days. Don't even need to go that fast on this stretch to Eagles Cliff. You see how I'm just applying it gently and the needle moves very slowly down there. So I've got about half braking on, maybe a bit less. And I'm going to let it out now, because at 20 miles an hour I'm going to stop in plenty of time, and in fact Slower now than I would have liked to, probably. And you just have to remember as well, it takes a second or two to travel the handle from the fully released to the applied position. So try and have it at the lap position at least in advance. Yeah, I was just saying, Andy, these are the ones I sort of grew up with. These are the ones I had as train sets. These are the ones that I went on as a child. So yeah, I'm loving all this stuff. See, that's not right either, because in reality, some silly bugger would have started opening the door long before the train was at a standstill. One time there were several deaths a year because of silly sods trying to get off the train before it had stopped and fallen down the gap. Okay, so let's just get a wriggle on now. See, I find it much easier to tell with this gauge here when it's time to change gears, because it's this sort of notch at the 8 o'clock position. Once the needle drops below that, you can apply the throttle again. It's often much easier to read it clearly than it is the HUD instrument. Hey, Super Sprinter, welcome, man. We were just talking about the brakes. I think it was you, wasn't it, that was telling me that the brakes they release far too slowly on this thing. I've noticed they release much faster on the actual locomotive pull trains. If you use the goods vans on NTP, the vacuum brakes behave completely differently and much more like you described them to me. So if I remember, there's various speed limit reductions coming up in the not too distant future. I think it goes up a bit and then suddenly comes down a bit. Yeah, it's dead easy to drive on the bigger locos. I found them pretty comparatively easy to get to grips with. Oh yeah, there we go, there's another reduction. Hang on, alright, okay, so it's a double 35, that's weird. It always confuses me when the same speed limit comes up twice. Oh no, 35, right, yeah, I totally misread my own instruments there. Whoops. Happens occasionally after a long day, and another reason why I should never ever be allowed near a real train. Yeah, the lighting should brighten up as well as we go. This is oh, forgot a speed limit change. Bugger it. Yeah, it should brighten up a bit as we go. I maybe piled a bit too much cloud on, but never mind. It's actually the cloud more than the sunlight that's the issue here. So I was whacking it on. You do need to make sure you're far enough up this platform to see the signal. If you stop too far short, you won't actually see the signal at the end of the platform. It's not usually an issue, but I think I have had it at caution once. So just pre-release the brake a little bit, a big bit. Here we are. I think is this. Oh, this is maybe the 738 actually that I'm running. So yeah, you should get the usual sudden massive increase in the light at around 8 o'clock, thereabouts. 8:03. Yeah, so it should brighten up pretty quickly. So we'll just pre-select the door locking option. I hate that that freezes it. So it's telling me wait till 8:04, but we're just going to lock up now. Impressed I've got as far as Middlesbrough without trying to like move off still in 4th gear or something ridiculous like that. Oh hell, what was the speed limit around there again? It was like 25 or something, wasn't it? Shit. Still got a way to go with my route knowledge along here, that's safe to say. Oh cock. Oops, sorry. Right, so this is another sort of speed up a little bit and then slow down a big bit going into Middlesbrough. And the fact that we got a few seconds extra to wait at the last stop, that's I don't need to look at the clock to know I'm running to time if that was the case. So far. take it that klaxon I can hear is something to do with that bridge over there. Right, this is where it's easy to lose time, is the slow speed stretches. So try not to be too timid about it, but okay. I don't feel any pressure at all doing that when I know somebody who's got years of real world experience in these things is watching me. Wow. Right. No, I do usually go all super focused through the low speed stuff around here because it is so easy to lose a ton of time. Actually, like when you're in the slow speed stuff, that is where you can lose much more time than in the high speed stuff. Because the difference between 4 miles an hour and 5 miles an hour over half a mile is much more than the difference between 59 miles an hour and 60 miles an hour over that same half mile. If that makes any sense. Probably doesn't, but I know what I'm getting at. Right, so again I'm just going to lock up and I'm going to begin releasing the brakes. No idea how sharp we are actually. Oh, we're doing really well. 20 seconds. Nice. Long Island, you can probably tell by the amount of time I've spent doing it on the stream, to be fair. It's alright, but I don't think there's much variety in it. I did a couple of trips in it and didn't think there was much else to cover. It's good fun for that kind of train driving. I quite like cab signalling, which works sort of in it. I find I do have to use the heads-up display in conjunction with it though, because only half of the system actually works properly. But I do like it, and it's its own kind of challenge again. Especially sections that are, again, it's a lot of low speed stuff at the ends of the line, with the potential to lose a ton of time in there. But with some nice high speed. The only real complaint about it, apart from maybe the lack of variety, is there's one train. It feels a bit barren now compared to almost everything else. The same with the Northeast Corridor. There's a lot of potential in that route, but as it stands, it doesn't pull me in very often. Once in a blue moon I might fire it up for something a bit different, but by and large, with the complexity and the sort of the modern automatic and monitoring systems on the German trains, between that and the very different driving experience of these old diesels and what have you, having all this old nostalgia stuff to play with, there's nothing there to excite me anymore. Like I said, not bad, just I think, as the youths are saying today, I'm over it, you know. No regret whatsoever about buying it though. I mean, I got a ton of time out of it when it was new. Highly enjoyed it. And so if anybody wants something a wee bit different, a proper sort of urban railway, then it's pretty good. Got you using PZB? Awesome. Tremendous. I hope you found it as I did. It made this game, it turned this from a game into a simulator for me. A bit like all the improvements to the British stuff has done. It didn't quite feel there with Great Western. It does now. They've done enough to Great Western, and the classic routes as well. Absolutely fantastic job they've done, but PZB was the thing that really changed it all for me. It made me realise just how much potential there was in this. I actually need to go back and play on the German railways very soon, because I'm going to have forgotten how PZB works. Just need to roll forward to make sure the whole train's on, because it is a 3-car set, not a 2-car. SIFA, I discovered it doesn't seem to work anymore on some cabs. I didn't play for a few weeks. I actually had an operation not that long ago, and I wasn't really doing much of anything during the few weeks after it. And then I came back to the game after about 5 or 6 weeks. Found SIFA didn't work in half the trains. I do use it when I'm playing off stream, but I don't use it anymore when I'm streaming. I used to, but I stopped, basically because I realised that for people watching, it was not always entirely obvious when I was pressing the button to respond to PZB and when I was doing it for SIFA, because I have got a really ingrained habit of reacting to SIFA when the cab light comes on, not necessarily when the alarm sounds. And SIFA has a bizarre way of sometimes working out that it comes on as you're passing a signal, and again that makes it confusing as to whether I was doing it for that or doing it for the speed limit or what have you. So don't use it on stream anymore, generally speaking, but I do use it. It's it doesn't really add very much, so not as much as PZB, but I'm the kind of person that usually, if the switch can be flicked in the game, I will flick the switch in the game. And it was good on Rapid Transit back before they fixed the PZB, because it was like the one thing that worked on the train. What was my speed limit around here again? Oh, 60, that's fine. Ah, so we are stopping at Red Car. The steel works. Oh, speed, speed. Could do with a wee bit more traffic on this line, but I dare say they're getting ready to sell us some soon. Predict a pacer or something similar. What did I just pass there? That's fine. Rail bus. Oh wow. We're really going for the real niche stuff now, aren't we? Man, those things were bad. Don't know, they might have been awesome fun to drive, but they were god awful to be in the back of. I think it's mostly a fairly quick line. Once you're past we've gone past the point where the freight trains go. I think they all go up there. Bit sharpish on the brake in there, never mind. Yes, I know I'm not supposed to fan the brake handle, sorry. Oh, I hate that little pause. See, it actually looks really, really good in some conditions. I.e. any conditions that hide the draw distance up here. Oh yeah, hang on, that's a screenshot. F1 on the keyboard, incidentally, if anybody's wondering how I did that. Okay, so not actually that far to go. Oh, I'm still in fourth gear. Well, I made it further than Middlesbrough before that happened. Oh, fudge. So, yeah, not actually that far to go now. I think there's like 3 or 4 more stops, including Saltburn. And we were making good time, I think, until that happened. Midland Railway Centre, is that like a heritage centre, a museum or something, Super Sprinter? I have to say, full disclosure at this point, I've only really recently rediscovered the fact that I am in fact still a small child who really likes trains. So beyond the scope of what's in this game, my knowledge is fairly basic, it has to be said. Ah, cool. The last railway museum I was in was the national one in York about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was just to put in half a day while my partner at the time, she was having a job interview down there. Anyway, that was the last time I was anywhere near a railway museum, and it was ages ago, but I had no idea there was so many of these places around the country that actually still have work and stock and things like that. There's a whole world out there of things I really need to go and have a wee look at, I think, at some point. I'm doing that thing again where I'm chatting and I'm not really driving properly, so I think we've just thrown away all the time we had. Probably. I love this station, I just think it looks so cool. Like a proper no-nonsense, we're here to do a job type station, you know what I mean. Oh, a bit shorter than I would have liked, but never mind. Five, blimey. Must be spoilt for choice what to do at the weekend. Oh yeah, let's let some of that break out again. I made the mistake of doing this, stopped at somewhere or other with the vans on NTP, like letting the handle all the way out and started rolling back down the hill, like, whoa. Let's remember the gears this time. Oh wow, so even with all that faffing about, we're still running ahead of time. Oh, awesome. All hail the driver, eh? Right, so it's red car east and then yeah, so it's 2, 3, 4 stations including Saltburn now. Hey Andy, welcome, good to see you, man. Almost, this is one of these stretches where it's almost not worth changing up gear and it almost is, and I think this is actually slightly uphill. I could have left that a bit later. Oh no, I don't think I'm going to be all the way on. It's a really short platform. Or did I have more room? No, that's the end of it right there. So yeah, I was probably better to let the brakes out a bit more. Can't mind what the time I was supposed to be here is. So you never really see anything else up this end of the line, I don't think, or certainly I've not so far. I think there's only like one train an hour going up and down this wee stretch. Oh yeah, man, that sounds like a great way to spend the week. Yeah, I'll miss them when they're gone. We've got a bunch of them being put onto the rails up here, though. I don't know how long they're getting kept in service. I know they're being withdrawn in a lot of regions, but ScotRail have just picked up about a dozen refurbished ones. So I've got no idea what the long-term future for those is. They're totally wasted running back and forwards between Edinburgh and Glasgow, and I think some of them are going up to Aberdeen and Inverness. But knowing Abello ScotRail, this is they're going to hang around for a while. Hey Spurs Reading, thanks man, I'm good, welcome. I hope you're good as well, man. We're just showing the Tees Valley a little more love again. Trying to complete what I managed to completely fail last night. We're in for time 31. Yeah, we should be alright. You sometimes get the odd sound glitch here where on this line in particular, where the horn sometimes cuts out and back in again. Can't get a new one past Leeds, fuck's sake. As our American chums would say, hell of a way to run a railroad, huh? Right, I bollocks this one up by braking too soon. And now I'm going to bollocks up by going straight through, probably. Hope nobody had their thermos open when I did that. Let's get rid of some of that brake pressure. Or get some of it back, rather, technically, I suppose. I think you're actually supposed to stick these in neutral if you're sitting still for a while, but then I always forget to put it back into first again. And that becomes a problem. Oh aye, so I think I did arrive more or less on time, but we're going to be just going straight away. Just doing the wee time check thing there. Mail trains? I didn't think those were even a thing anymore. Well, the more you know, huh? Right, so barely any distance between these two stations, and that can catch... It has actually caught me by surprise almost every time up till now. .835. Oh nah, we've slipped. About a minute or so behind. And I probably lost all of that in the last 3 or 4 miles. That's how easy it is to do. I had no idea they were still operating those. I haven't seen one of those in a long time. Used to see them parked up at Waverley Station on my way into the centre of Edinburgh every morning. No, still often see the Caledonian Sleeper parked up as well, which is something a little bit different anyway, compared to what you usually see around there, which is just loads and loads and loads of DMUs and well, MUs of various flavours and the intercities. Alright, Andy man, thanks for joining, dude. Enjoy the rest of your evening, whatever you're up to, and we'll catch you again next time. Oops. Oh, left it in gear again. Balls. Right, definitely lost time now because we're 1.8 miles. Might make it back. Problem is, it's a 15 on the way in, and it's a dead end platform as well, so you don't really want to go tanking in there too fast. No, I've never seen one. They maybe come and go at different times now. Right, 55. Right, so it's uphill here, so the brakes are going to be like mega effective, comparatively speaking. Ah, signal. Sometimes catches you a wee bit unawares, that signal, because it's usually the only one you see the whole way along. It has it startled me back to life more than once. See, now I'm going to have to go and look up the class 325, so little do I know about trains outside what's in TSW. But that's cool, because that will fill in a bit of time later on. Probably a bit too tame with that as well. $8:41. Yeah, so we're going to arrive more or less on schedule. You can't come flying in here anyway because it's quite twisty and tight, and bad things will happen. Now, see, it's stuff like that that's making me seriously consider investing in a PC come the time to change to the next generation. Because, quite frankly, this is making me really hungry for just more, and I'm impatient to wait for years. Because I used to have a lot of routes like that. I had like the whole East Coast main line practically from... between all the different freeware and payware add-ons that I could effectively drive from Inverness to King's Cross. Alright, I had to stop a few times and like load a different route in, but it didn't matter, it was awesome. Yeah, so we lost just a tiny bit of time at the end there. That's not the end of the world. Right, I need to remember how to do all this. I'm probably going to make a mess of it and have to go back to the menu. Turn that off. Right, what have I not done? Oh yeah, control key, that's probably quite important. Easiest way to open the cab door, although let's not jump out onto the side. Easiest way I find to open it is to open the window first, otherwise it doesn't find the click spot properly. Although you can do it okay from the outside usually. Alright Andy man, cheers for joining us while you could, always appreciated. Catch you again next time dude, and enjoy the rest of your evening, whatever you're doing. Don't know why I felt the need to turn the train lights on when they were already on. Actually the first thing I should do is just check the brakes, because sometimes when you change end the brake noise doesn't come with you. There it releases okay, handle, and we have brake noise, that's fine. So how are we doing for time? Oh, so we're almost due to almost go straight away. So in fact, I'm going to pause the game because I need to take a very quick break. I didn't realise I had that little time. It will be just a few minutes and then I'll be back to do the return trip. Okay, let's get this moving again. Okay, let's get locked up. All a wee bit last secondy. Oh, I remember what I've not done. Not turned the wiper on either. Oh, not a lot of time at all to get that turned around and underway, but we got underway without too much time lost. So, oh, just a wee tiny bit over the speed limit, but probably got away with it. What the hell? Oh, mate, I've driven off instead of... Oh, fudge. I totally misread the thing. That's what happens when you panic. Right, we'll just go back to the menu and pretend that didn't happen and start the scenario as if it was totally from the beginning. Just totally lost the thread of where I was in that scenario with the with going away for a few minutes. Bugger. Ah well. That's live entertainment for you. Right, so we'll make it a bit brighter. So that would have been the Saltburn to Bishop Auckland. So that would have been the 748. Right, that's the one we'll drive back. We'll make it a bit sunnier this time. That was a really silly thing to do. Never mind. I get confused by the thing where it says wait for service to start and then it tells you the time, because that is the message you get at the start of all the routes on the German ones, and it literally means that you're going to start moving at that time, and I always forget that on this route it means open the doors at that time. Right. However, it's not... Oh, got out on the wrong side. What a tube. None of this is going my way, is it? It did occur to me as I was pulling out the station as well that I might have forgotten to turn AWS off in the rear cab, so disaster was probably inevitable. Oh, come on! Wait until 7:50, okay. Will I lock the doors? No, let's lock the doors. Have I turned AWS on? Yeah, I've turned AWS on, haven't I? No, I've not. Thought it looked wrong. Hey Chris, welcome mate. Oh, and Will, I didn't notice you there. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, I'm not sure what those sirens are that you hear going off at up around the steelworks and stuff. Right, so we're just about ready to go now. Oh, I've already locked the doors, haven't I? Wait for the brakes to release. And away we go. Should have maybe had those released a little in advance, but not to worry. So 15 miles an hour out of the station, or thereabouts. Okay, let's get going. Oh, wrong way. None of my cameras will be where I want them. Aye, that'll do near enough. Oh, I think I might be mixed speeding slightly. That's what happens when you go playing with the cameras. And a bit more appropriate speed now. Won't really pick it up at the 55 zone by much because we'll be well and truly on the approach to Marsk, however you pronounce that. Marsk, one of them. Or none of the above, quite possibly. Can hear seagulls or something. Why wouldn't we? We're right on the coast, I suppose. Hardest thing I find with the 101 is actually controlling the speed on downhill gradients, just because of the lag with the brakes. That's probably the trickiest thing to keep it under control. Oops. I've not seen it. I've not gone out of my way to look for it though, if I'm being honest. I don't know that the line goes all the way to. It runs. Problem with our railways is because of the way they were built, they tend to have lots of embankments and stuff around them, so you can't always see very much from them anyway. Oh, I went way beyond there. So sometimes it's possible to pass within 100 yards of something and not see it from the train. I'm going to leave that open because you can hear just a little bit more. I've never heard the seagulls before until I came down here with the window open. Alright Tommy, thanks for joining. You've done a fair old shift there, my man. I'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Looks completely different in the daytime as well sometimes compared to the dawn and the dusk. The lighting changes throughout the day-night cycle on this map are incredible. They've kind of nailed that. It's pretty good on all of them, but this one just seems to stand out, and I don't know if it's just because of the sort of the visual effect of the industrial sort of skyline or what, but it's, yeah, I'm actually really liking this. Like I say, only thing I want is more traffic, but I suspect we will be offered that at a price in the not too distant future. Oh, hello Stephen, welcome along man, good to see you again. Cloud update, the clouds do kind of look a bit painted on sometimes, don't they? They remind me of trying to run Active Sky X on a single core Pentium, well not a Pentium, but like a single core PC when everybody else had dual cores by then. Anybody who knows what I'm talking about will feel my pain. Anybody who doesn't, it would take far too long to explain. Oh shit, station. I'll go for God's sakes. God, man. Have I gone through a signal as well? I might not be able to get back. Shite. Oh man, that's a long way back. Ah, see, I need to watch more of his personal streams. Right, we're going to be running well late the rest of the way as well. And then I'm going to get the sack. Oh God, I overshot by nearly half a mile. I'm going to be like late everywhere. Oh, dearie me. Fucking hell, where's this platform, man? Yeah, sorry about that. Oops. Okay. Ho hum, that never happened. We'll just tell them there was a sheep on the line or something. dear, that was embarrassing. That was brutal. Yeah, if you're gonna cock up, do it big style. Why not, eh? Right, so we're supposed to be there at 8:01 and it's already 8 o'clock, so nah. What's the limit here? As fast as I need it to be. See if we can get any time back actually on the way. See, that's sometimes half the fun of this game, is when you make a big mistake like that, is seeing if you can make any of it back. It may take some concentration, however, so I wouldn't bank on it. Train lights have gone off as well. I'm sure I turned those on. Oh, how did that happen? God damn fiddly controls on this thing sometimes. Right, I've got this one. Love the sounds on this train. You can hear every join in the rails, it's cool. Some of the bigger locomotives, all that's lost just in the howling shriek of the engine. Oh, I'm doing that stopping too early thing again. Man, I'm having such a sloppy drive tonight. I don't know what's wrong. Oh well. Let's let some of that braking out. Right, I want to be ready just to go as soon as I get the... Oh, come on, hurry up, you. Well, if they get on, they get on. If they don't, they don't. We're going. Noisy. Let's see if we can get this one a bit better. I think I'm being maybe a bit too timid on the brakes now. Really easy to do after an overshoot is to spend the next few stations just crawling in. Okay, so we'll just do the usual thing with the brakes straight away. Reset the gear so that I'm not forgetting to do anything at the last second, because that's seems to be my Achilles heel sort of thing. Nice. Love the detail in like the weathering and just the wear and tear and the general grubbiness of the thing. Right, let's get ready to go. You sit down awfully low in this as well. Brilliant view though. Really easy to read the trackside signs as well from this cab, because you're so close to them. So we are heading out onto the stretch where it can look a bit bleak sometimes. This is the one sort of weak spot on this route. Sometimes, and it tends to be in clear conditions, but the engine struggles just to do a decent draw distance, and usually looks alright when there's some cloud around, and that tends to hide it. Braking too early again. Sometimes you think you're braking too early, and then you realise the platform's only about 6 inches long, and you go, oh no. Did not think to check what the due time was there. And just make sure we don't release the brakes enough that the train starts to roll, because that's no good. Oh, camera goes a bit funny when you run it parallel to an object sometimes. Doesn't go to Bishops. Yeah, it's not the longest route. That's fair to say. Well, it still takes about an hour each way in the passenger trains, and the longer freight activities can take around the same amount of time. I don't know why though. I've got a funny feeling just from some of the comments that Matt Pedalston's made that they are to a degree planning ahead for extending routes and things like that. So they might have something planned away down the road. I don't think they've even necessarily got any extensions solidly planned, more that they've sort of selected routes that have the potential should they choose to do so. I mean, Great Western could be extended quite obviously to one of several places. Main Spessart ban, you actually at one point the line diverges, and the high speed line for the intercity trains is just there begging to be used with an extension out to Würzburg, and in fact the line you do use on Main Spessart ends up at Würzburg anyway, so that could be a possible extension at some point. Keeping sort of half an eye on what I'm doing now. Oh, and I yesterday also had some doubt as to whether that was the East Coast Main Line on account of the fact there were no overhead wires. It definitely is, because I was playing about with one of the scenarios earlier and it tells you to stop on the ECML downline. I thought it had all been electrified by 89, but I was obviously wrong. So, hooray! ECML's in there finally for 100 yards. It does all look kind of cool. I really like the aesthetic of it all. I don't actually, I was a bit wary of the shortness of it at first, but that's kind of gone away a bit. And there's still a nice mixture of scenery. You've got sort of the little run out to the nice little picturesque village, at the end, coming through the town, past all this industrial shit, and then out into the countryside. It's actually quite a varied route. You don't always notice it at the extremes of day, night, and weather conditions, but to just drive it in plain, half decent daytime weather is actually, oh shit, done it again. This is going bad. Might as well just pop it in reverse now, because I'm going to need it, I think. Oh, I might get away with this. Alright. Like a glove. Oh, buggered the engine again. Right, what was it I was told to do? Put the brakes fully on. Make sure my reverser's in off. Did that actually start? Yes, it did. Awesome. So there's a good example. Somebody did ask me once upon a time about this RPM engine switch. There's an example of where it's useful, is when you're starting the engines. I wasn't sure if I'd heard the second engine start up, but by flicking the switch I was able to confirm that there were revs. Probably about the only time that switch is going to be really any practical use in the game, but there you go. Oh, they might well in the dim and distant future, Spurs Reading, do something like that, you know, bundle up some of the older DLCs and sell them as packs. And that happens with every game eventually. It's you get in on the ground floor knowing that eventually people a few years after you are going to be getting it for a fraction of what you paid, but in exchange you've already had 2 years or 3 years of entertainment out of the thing. So yeah, they probably will. Be really cheeky of them to do it without fixing the problems of the access, in my opinion, but you never know. Oh, brilliant. I've got the sun shining straight onto the glass of the instrument there. That's awesome. I don't actually mind stuff like that too much. It just it adds to all a little bit It tests how well you can do it by listening out. This is why I hate it when I lose the brake sound, because if for any reason the gauge is obscured, you can kind of... You get used to just listening to the noise and knowing when you've given it enough kind of thing. Even though the noise doesn't actually change, just having it there as an audio cue is hugely helpful. It's also a useful way to tell without having to glance off to the right whether or not I left the brake handle in the release or the lap position, depending on whether that noise starts immediately or not. Yes, I did figure out why it wouldn't move Spurs Reading. Super Sprinter very kindly told me what the start sequence is for the thing. Essentially what I'd done is I'd caused the engines to stall, and I just couldn't remember how to start them, and I didn't have my manual to hand. I actually just did the same thing 2 minutes ago with that massive jump on the brakes that I did. But this time I was happily able to get the whole thing going again. Just pre-release those. What did I get up to do? Oh yeah. Oh no, I thought I'd seen a easy to quick to grab collectible there, but apparently not. Remember and do my gears. Right, let's just get ourselves ready to button up and go. Oops, not quite to full. Is the stadium near the station? I'm not actually a football fan, so I don't really know much about that either. I don't really know much about anything, to be honest with you. Oh, come on. Oh, train, look! More traffic, another train! Oh, that was exciting. It's a wee bit lonely along here sometimes. So a mile, yeah, you probably could see it from the station in reality. Don't know what the draw distance is for this. I think a mile is pushing it a bit, unfortunately. Sad but true. Not running as far behind time as I thought I was at this point. Oh, speed limit is again. Buggery, buggery, buggery. Every damn time. I need to spend more time. Because I've played this so much NTP as well, I think I just need to drive this route a few more times to really get comfortable with it. Especially the eastern end of it, where the freight trains fear to tread. You want to make sure you're far enough up this platform. You need to go pretty deep, because you want to make sure you can see the signal. So about 2 minutes behind time. Alright, okay. Oh yeah, then it pretty much should be in there. I wonder if they were worried about putting it in for licensing reasons. Is it in FIFA by any chance? Because if it's in a game like FIFA or that, they would be really wary about putting it in a game like this. Because lawyers and shit. Even though it looks nothing like it did then, probably. Just purely having it there, they might go, not sure. That could well be your answer then. Oh yeah, that would be. I wonder if that's what the Saturday special is on the in the scenarios mode. It's just called Saturday Special, but it's like it's a double length train that makes absolute perfect sense. Annoyingly though, it's one of those ones I find that whenever I run down the back to switch on the lights and the sign, when you come back to the leading pair or trio, you need to save and reload to get your brake sound back. Not actually really done any of the scenarios yet. I think I'm going to have a play with those off stream for both this, and I never really did any of the TransPennine ones either, it has to be said. I've always just been instantly drawn into service mode, especially with the more recent routes where you could literally hop on and off, and there was so much traffic, it just worked seamlessly. But I'm going to maybe have a play about with some of those scenarios, because I feel there could be quite a lot of cool things to see in there that would be worth having a look at maybe. I think maybe one of my favourite ones so far is there's one on the Ruhr Nord that involves driving a passenger train down the wrong line in horrendous weather because there's a tree come down on the line, and you see the wee van with the wee like you know, the track maintenance crew. You see the wee vans and stuff parked up next to the track. It's awesome. That was horrible. Totally misjudged that. So from Eagles Cliff, there's not that far to go, and we're on to the fairly quick stretch of line. I think there might only be 2 or 3 more stops. Yeah, that'd be cool. It'd be cool if the weather had a more measurable effect on the trains as well. I was watching a documentary recently about trains running on one of the northern lines. It was made back in the late 80s, early 90s, and bad snow on the line to Leeds, the train was crawling along at 3 or 4 miles an hour because the driver just couldn't get any traction at all. The trains are running hours late. Still running, but you know, and even heavy rain could have an impact, and it would be cool to see that sort of effect in the game. But I think the dynamic scheduling sort of stuff that goes on in the background would have to be way more robust. In fact, not even robust, it would have to be more flexible, I think, than it is at the moment. More intelligent, if you will. Would be awesome though. I could really get behind that. Oh, doing that thing where I forget to change gear again. Barely worth my while shifting up, but never mind. Yeah, good enough. Let's just let some of that brake off again. And fix my gearbox. Nah, I don't find it makes any difference at all when it's raining. It's a nice visual effect, but it doesn't seem to make any difference. Although the newer packs, Tees Valley and the BR Heavy Freight, I've noticed that the locomotives can wheel spin. You can get wheel slip, but I don't think it gets any worse with the weather. Although they're clearly with what was being said earlier on in the chat, it's obvious Dovetail are thinking about these things and working on them to one degree or another. I did release all those, didn't I? It feels really draggy. I love that, the semaphore signal next to the electric signal. Next to the somewhere in between shunt signal. It's almost a perfect snapshot of the British Railway network at the time. So it's Dinsdale and then Darlington, more or less at the end. This is the fun, fast bit. Well, by the standards of the rest of the line. And you can hear AWS properly from outside the cab again. It's pretty cool. Oh, I forgot, I got the engine lights up there as well to tell me if they've started. Never mind, the RPM select needle came in useful. Hey Jordan, hi, welcome to the stream. Yeah, I think you won't find anybody here who disagrees with you that we want longer routes. I'm sure that at some point in the future that is going to happen, but it's always the thing with a game like this, patience and all that guff. It's going to take a while. They will. I'm absolutely sure they will get longer though at some point. But yeah, it would be nice to have longer routes. Although some of them do quite a good job of feeling longer than they are. Northern Transpennine is actually shorter than you'd think, but because it's all uphill and pretty slow, it takes a lot longer to drive. Rursig Nord's kind of the same, I find. Feels a lot longer than it actually is. What would be cool is if they lengthened this out a bit and let us use some of the other 80 stock on the line as well. I would say that's fairly unlikely though. Certainly in the short term, because I suspect what we're going to get first is we're going to get, as I said earlier, pacer type units along here. Why the hell have I got that up? I don't want that there. I actually actively dislike having that on this this cab now. So it's just 30 for this tight bend, but that's fine because we're calling in at Dinsdale anyway. How are we for time? 43. Oh, so we've stayed pretty consistently 2 minutes behind since that minor mishap. So no point whatsoever in accelerating here. Not really any point in applying the brakes at 5% either, but... yeah, just slap them on. That'll do it. And we'll just let the brakes charge up a wee bit there. There we go, that's fine. Again, just settle that gubbins so when I jump back in the cab I'm not going, oh, what have I got to do now? What do I do now, Dad? And I still reckon that that livery would look good on any train today. That is a properly timeless livery. I don't care what anyone else says. That and the sort of the black and white intercity scheme that they came up with, that they cooked up with just before they sold it all off, with the like the swallow on the side, those were amazing looking machines. Oh, another train coming. Sound effects are definitely way better on this pack as well. I think they might have upgraded them for Northern Transpennine, but it's noticeable, that's for sure. I can't really tell with the DMU yet because I haven't really driven it that much on Transpennine. And mostly when they go past me, I'm sitting in a really bloody noisy big locomotive. Here, yeah. Had this sudden horrible feeling that the speed limit might have changed again. I think it could do with a little bit, just because I like to see other trains going by, to be honest. I don't know how accurate it is to the amount of traffic that was on the line at the time, though. I mean, an hourly service to a place like Saltburn in the 1980s seems about right, so... But that said, I don't know really where this line goes at all the junctions, so I don't know how much through traffic there might have been. And I think that's something that's missing from some of the way that they've got the timetable and set up on the new ones. There's not as many through trains anymore, and there's never been any that have just been like joined and left route. They can do it on the PC, and I think it's just a resources thing more than anything else. I think as well, partly having come from the playing so much of the newer German routes, and some of those are proper busy, and even Northern Transpennine, depending what time you go out, what time of day you're on the track at, that quite a lot of stuff on there now. So coming to this, it can feel just a wee bit barren and empty sometimes, but that's not to take away from it at all. It's, I mean, hell, it demands so much concentration that you really won't be spending a huge amount of time looking at the world go by. But and the problem is there's not a lack of it, it's just that the passenger and the goods trains share the track for such a short stretch of it, because you spend so much of your time on the goods trains in the yards or the lines leading to and from them. You're away from the main passenger line. The bit that they share is only about a mile long, couple of miles long maybe. There's one yard that is only a couple of miles, there's another yard that is like maybe 3 or 4 miles, maybe a bit longer, that they share. Oh, brake. Yeah, it would be nice to see a big blue 37, I have to admit. And I've also noticed, and I could be wrong, but every photograph I can find of the 37-5 shows it still has the big black head code boxes over the lamps on the nose. The numbers and things have been taken out, they've been converted into markers, but they're still... The boxes themselves, one on either side of the nose, are still there, which they have removed for some inexplicable reason from this one. Well, not this actual one, obviously, because it ain't a 37, but you just want to change the points and hammer it. So due in at 08:50, yeah, so we're going to pull in about 2.5 minutes late. Another AWS that can catch you by surprise, because you generally get all clears along there. It's actually quite a long platform, this. Yeah, it's not inconceivable that they will do some crossover between the packs, because they've done it with the Some of the German trains that you could buy separately ended up being able to be used on multiple routes. So, it's possible. Or they've maybe got other specific things planned. What they have said is there's still capacity within all those timetables to add more stuff. So, at the moment, really anything goes. In terms of what might happen. I'm not planning on doing the return leg, it's just habit to start shutting the cab down. Oh, I don't need to do the doors either. Oh, right. So it still gives me on time, because I was within 4 minutes. What was the one I overshot? I think it was, yeah, it was Longbeck that I overshot. So I was probably in about a minute early. That would have been a really good run if it hadn't have been for that. Because I kept it more or less on the same 2 minute lag. Oh, I made it back to within a minute at Dinsdale as well. Bugger. Ah well, so how not to drive the Tees Valley line? Kind of. Oh look, we're still loading passengers. Why are we still loading passengers? Oh yeah, all sorts of stuff going through Huddersfield in the 80s. It was a really, really, really much busier line than it actually looks on train sim. I mean, there would have been plenty of times that the trains were running with minimum separation. On PlayStation 4, mate, can't go to Redcar. So, you mean none of your services show up, or I'm confused. Yeah, things like the destination boards and that are pretty cool. I like those. They're nice little touches. And the digital ones on the German trains are cool as well. Right, that's enough of that. So, oh my word, my eyes are actually quite tired. So that was a couple of hours of fairly sloppy, messy driving up in the Tees Valley. Really, really need to have more practice at that. Excuse me. So I think that's where I'm going to call it, because I can actually hardly see straight now that I've taken my eyes away from the screen. Whoa. Let's just back out of there. Let's just have a quick look at Dovetail Live, see if there's anything in there worth having a look at. No, so there's nothing new there. It's worth having a wee look at from time to time, especially if you don't social media much. I'm not sold on this thing yet, on this goat. We'll see how much they're asking for it, but I suspect this one might be a wait until I see it in a sale job. Yeah, it looks kind of cool, but don't know if I'd fork out just for a shunting only pack. That's maybe just a wee bit too much for me. I quite enjoy the shunting, but not sure about a whole pack built around it. But that's just me. I know that lots of people absolutely love it, and yeah, why the hell shouldn't there be more of it? It's not all about me after all. Okay. Class 47 on the Transpennine would be... okay, Spurs Redding, thanks man. I'm just going to be winding it up very shortly anyway. Good to see you, dude. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Sean, the new services with the oil tanks, you want to use the air brakes. I'll show you the switch, because there is something quite important you need to know about this switch. You want to use the air brakes for the oil wagons, and you want to use the vacuum brakes for the vans. Yeah, that's right. Air brakes for the oil trains and vacuum brakes for the vans. But it's very, very important. I'll just quickly fire this up to show you the switch. Because if you switch it the wrong way, you can go through the wrong braking sequence, and it's not unfixable, but it's a pain in the ass if you don't have the checklist memorised, which I don't. Oh, come on. Loading times. I think this route takes a wee bit longer to load in these days as well. Right. So the brake switch on the back wall, and it is always in the number 1 end. So if you're starting at the number 2 end, you'll need to come down and do this. When you're changing it, move it to the left so that it loops around to air brake goods. Because if you do it to the right, you'll go across the vacuum. See how you go across vacuum brake passenger, vacuum brake goods? That then buggers up the brakes a wee bit, and you have to go through a fairly contrived sequence of unblocking them sometimes. Apart from that, the only advice really is that these tanker trains need miles of braking. Like miles and miles of braking, especially this thing. It takes loads of braking, and I am still trying to figure out, because the manuals I've got are only partial. This is a train that may have been limited to a speed of 45 or 60 miles per hour, but I'm not sure which one yet. But certainly didn't be trying to run it at 70 or 80 and thinking you're going to ever stop for a signal, because that ain't going to happen. But aye, that's the brakes on these things. Pretty easy actually, and the vacuum brakes on the vans are an absolute doddle to drive with. Much, much easier than the vacuum brakes on the 101, because they release instantly. Dead easy to use. So I hope that's a useful answer. I am going to resist the temptation to start another activity, otherwise I will be here far later than I intended to. So we're going to wrap that up there. Thanks very much, everybody. Always appreciated, always good to see you guys. New faces as well, that's awesome. So that's about all I've got to say. I'm kind of just now talking for the sake of it. So I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks very much.